Right, so the debate over government's decision or proposal to use the Heritage Fund or part of the Heritage Fund to fund its free SHS policy got raging today, and a coalition of civil society groups, they have joined forces to challenge the plan. Now, the civil society platform on oil and gas is asking government to immediately abandon its decision to, as they put it, raid the fund. In a statement, the group says the current arrangement, which sets aside only 9% of net petroleum revenues as a heritage for future generations, is the result of intense negotiations and broad national consultations. Earlier on News Desk, chairman of the civil society platform on oil and gas, Steve Mantiao, explained to my colleague Beatrice Edu the purpose of the fund and why government cannot touch it for whatever reason.
Whatever we get, we'll put something aside against tomorrow. I happen to have chaired the governance session of that particular conference, so I very well remember the proceedings. And following that, in 2009, we went through a political transition, and the NDC government came into power. The lead consultant who began work on the Petroleum Revenue Management Act was not changed by the new government. He's in the person of Professor Joe Amakun Tufuo. He continued to see work on the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, which contains the arrangements with respect to how much we spend today and how much we save against the future. And he continued to work on this to see it to its conclusion. And a lot of discussions and negotiations went into this. In the end, Ghanaians agreed that we will save 9% of the total or net petroleum revenue. I say net because the PRMA, that's the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, requires that we assign up to 55% of total petroleum receipts to GNPC to finance its equity share in the Jubilee and also to undertake exploratory and other activities. And so once you've discounted the 55%, you then have what left converted into a whole. And then you assign 70% to the budget, what we call the annual budget funding amount. 21% is supposed to go into a fund called the Stabilization Fund, which is to help us manage the volatility effect of the petroleum prices on our budget. And then the 9% goes for future generation. And let me clarify here, reference to future generation is not to the children of today. The children of today have a share in the ABFA, that is 70% that is allocated for spending today. I mean, if you look at the spirit of the law, we're referring to the generation that may not meet the Ghana's oil reserves.
Well, pro-MPP pressure group Alliance for Accountable Governance, AFAG, wants government to suspend its proposed tax cuts to ensure it has adequate funding for the free senior high school policy. At a media briefing earlier on Thursday, its General Secretary Arnold Boateng says any money taken from the fund must only be considered a loan to be repaid in 3 years with interest.
Fund to fund the senior high school, that's number one. Number two, our support is not blanket. The Heritage Fund to be used should be seen as a loan. Government should pay back any money. Government should set up a senior high school fund in a long term to fund the free senior high school. Any money taken from the Heritage Fund should be paid back within 3 years into the Heritage Fund. And any taxes should also be considered to fund a senior high school. So we support it, but we should not do away with the Heritage Fund. The fund is necessary for posterity. So money taken from the fund should be paid back at an interest. Because the money paid into the fund is meant to be invested for posterity. Once the government takes the money from the fund, that investment is stayed. So when the government is paying back, the government should pay back the money to the fund at an interest rate. So yes, we support the government using the Heritage Fund to fund senior high school. But government should take the money from the fund as a loan to be borrowed and paid back at an interest, not like we collapsing the Heritage Fund.
Now, the NPP has already stated during the 2016 campaign it would scrap what it describes as nuisance taxes. So how then can this proposal be feasible? Mr. Boateng explains an SHS fund could also be set up for future funding while the taxes complement.
The bottom line to argument is that taxes should be stayed to raise money to fund the senior high school. So of the 12.5, the government proposed to reduce it further. We asked the government not to honor that promise, not to reduce it further, but say 2% could go into the senior high school fund. So yes, VAT is realistic. We can take money from VAT. You see, the VAT is a good source of income because it affects everybody, and education too affects everybody. So if the nation is told that we want to fund free senior high school, so we're taking 2% of VAT to support that, and every nation will support it. Most parents will support it, because after all, once that is done, it means that your child, your ward will go to basic school free of charge. And the government has redefined basic school to include senior high school. Normally, basic school was from KG to primary 6. Now, basic school, per the definition under which a free senior high school is to work, basic school is up to senior high school. So if the nation is saying that we are taking VAT 3% to not additional VAT, but existing one, 3% to fund senior high school, I think it's something that could be done. Other areas where the money could be raised. Look, property rate is one of the best ways to get the money. The difficulty is that the collectors of property rate are now millionaires themselves, because they go there, they make deals with the house owners, and the rates are not paid. If government is able to close this loophole, I think that we'll be able to raise millions, tens of millions to support the senior high school fund. Also, duties at the ports could also be considered. We have ECOWAS duty now, blah blah duty. Yes, 5% on every vehicle being imported, luxury goods being imported to the nation. To support free senior high school is not something that rich people who are importing bulletproof cars will not be in a position who complain about if that tax is introduced.
Now, the minority in Parliament has also served notice. It will oppose any plan by government to amend the Petroleum Management Act to allow it to use the Heritage Fund to finance the free SHS policy. Addressing a news conference in Accra on Thursday, minority spokesperson on finance Atu Forson says it would rather urge government to look for alternative sources of funding for the policy.
The intention of the NPP government to use proceeds accruing to the Heritage Fund from the petroleum revenues to finance their proposed free senior high school program. We joined the overwhelming majority of Ghanaians and the civil society to register our strongest disapproval and objection of this idea, and wish to state emphatically that we shall resist any attempt to amend the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, Act 815, for this purpose. The Petroleum Revenue Management Act is a product of national consensus and went through a series of processes, including executive and legislative approvals, and regarded as one of the best legislations for national resource revenue management in the world. The importance of this recap is for Ghanaians to note that the debate over the application of the Heritage Fund as raised by the senior minister is not new. The question as to spend oil revenue now or save towards the future were discussed in detail at the various fora, at Cabinet and in Parliament. A delicate balance was therefore agreed to take account of the various views expressed on this matter.
Atu Forson described the proposal from Senior Minister Yaw Safo-Maafo as an incompetent way of redeeming a campaign promise.
The plan to use the Heritage Fund is therefore not just an incompetent way of redeeming a campaign promise, but a lazy man's approach that completely undermines the national consensus and painstaking effort made to create a balance among the following: A, savings versus expenditure; 2, recurrent expenditure versus recurrent expenditure versus capital expenditure, and C, allocating of national resources among all sectors of the economy. It is obvious that the Heritage Fund, its investment and the amount accrued so far, would be woefully inadequate to meet close to $1 billion required annually to underwrite the free senior high school program. We also wish to remind Ghanaians that the proposal to allocate the Heritage Fund to education is not without other costs. First, the Heritage Fund forms part of the core reserves of the nation through Bank of Ghana, which takes into account the long-term needs of the nation, such as the macroeconomic stability of the country. Secondly, the notion that the Heritage Fund is set aside from the country's fiscal management is erroneous, since a critical examination of the fiscal table in the budget shows that there's an accounting setup between revenue generation and deficit financing. Therefore, the withdrawal of Heritage Fund is likely to have a negative impact on the country's reserve, the value of the currency, and will lead to a likely destabilization of the macroeconomic and fiscal situation of the country. We urge the NPP government to stay off the Heritage Fund, hands off the Heritage Fund, for it is particularly reserved as savings for future generations. Since petroleum resources are not renewable, future generations deserve a shot at progress, and that is what the Heritage Fund seeks to achieve.
Now, Deputy Minority Leader James Aveji says spending the Heritage Fund now will endanger the future of Ghana.
Doing the law in 2010, there was difficulty in defining what the future generation is. For all of us here, tomorrow is our future, isn't it? So we could have said, let's use that money for all of us because we are also future generation. Those are in class 1 today are the future generation. Even those yet unborn are the future generation. So we have difficulty in defining what a future generation is. And for that matter, we put in the law that because we have difficulty in defining what a future generation is, the Heritage Fund shall be reviewed after 15 years of its implementation. We're in the 6th year. We have 9 more years to go. Then Parliament will then sit down and say, this is what we have been able to accrue in the fund. What then do we use the money for? If at that point, Parliament thinks that the amount in the fund is enough, let's use it to do a project for Ghanaians, then it is for all of us who are the future generation. So we didn't leave the fund to grow in perpetuity. We have a provision that will ensure that from time to time, 15 years, Parliament will review it.
Now, former Energy Minister Emmanuel Kofi Boah warns that all resources will finish in the next 25 years, for which reason the money accruing in the Heritage Fund should be kept for generations thereafter.
Oil production, what we are talking about is a maximum of 25 to 30 years. And we are saying that only 9% is what we are setting aside for future generation. It has been described that we are going to look at this, review it in 15 years. We are just in the 5th year. And all we have is $260 million. And it's not even close, 30% of what we want to achieve. And so the issue is this the only place we can look? Ladies and gentlemen, we remember not too long ago in the campaign, the NPP were telling the whole Ghana that they have the men, they have the brains. We are dumb. We don't know where the money is. They have the resources. They are just coming in and plug the holes and make sure that they bring the resources. They have it. Now is the time to basically make it happen. But we are saying that we support the free HS. In fact, it's not only that we support it. We've started the progressive implementation of it. And we've done it, and we've prioritized education. In the history of this country, if you looked at our budget in the last 2 budgets, how much was allocated to the budget was historic. And that should tell you that the NDC is committed to education. But we know what is hands off, and we are saying that the Heritage Fund is hands off. And that's all we are saying. Let's look at other areas and support this agenda the NPP have, but not the Heritage Fund, this 9%, PT 9%. So many of us wished it had been 30%, but we knew that we had constrained, and that's why it's 9%. And this is not the time to touch that money.
So the debate, as you heard from the various speakers, has focused around the Heritage Fund, the use of the Heritage Fund to fund the free SHS. Now, government is saying today that it has not yet taken a decision to utilize the Heritage Fund to finance a free SHS policy. Kweku Kwarteng, a spokesperson on, or he is a member of the Finance Committee in Parliament. He has been speaking on this.
Government has not made any decision to finance the free SHS program from the Heritage Fund. That has to be understood from the outset. Government has not made that decision. I agree with many of the views that have been shared that if at all government decided to do that, it would require some legislative changes. We are mindful of the fact that if that were done, it would deplete the Heritage Fund. So many of the perspectives shared for me are legitimate points of view expressed, except to say that we should wait for the 2017 budget statement that is going to be presented in the first week of March. And of course, the free SHS is a commitment to Ghanaians that we will fulfill in this budget statement. The funding sources for the programs we roll out in the 2017 budget statements will be made clear.
You're watching Joy News, and we're taking a break now, but still to come in the bulletin, the Council of State is virtually taking shape. We have the elected representatives, 10 elected representatives. We'll be telling you who these people are when we come back from the break. Now, 10 regional representatives on Thursday got elected to the Council of State to complete the newly reconstituted constitutional body. The 10 will add to another 13 already appointed by President Akufo-Addo and the President of the National House of Chiefs, Togba Further XIV, who is an ex-official member by virtue of his position. One other member, a former Chief Justice, is yet to be named because there is currently no surviving Chief Justice. We'll shortly tell you how the elections went around the country, but let's first look at what the council is looking like now. So these are the presidential appointees as we have them. We have Nana Otu Srebo, the second, Samuel Kudjeto, Nana Kofi Obri Ejiri, the second, Alhaji Aminu Amadu, Stanley Edri Blangsing. Stanley Edri Blangsing is a former mayor of Accra. He is also in there as a presidential appointee on the Council of State. Alberta Kujo, Georgina Kusi, Alhaji Sahanoun Mukhtar, Dr. Margaret Amoako-Hene, Alhaji Sule Yeremia, Pa Kofi Ansong, General J.B. Dankwa, and this is where we have it. Now, General J.B. Dankwa is there as a former Chief of Defense Staff. So his position essentially is defined by the Constitution. So a former Chief of Defense Staff is supposed to be appointed onto the Council of State, and he is playing that role, or he's taken the position. And then Nana Owusu Nsia, a former Inspector General of Police, that position is also defined by the Constitution. And then Togbe Afede the 14th, he is there by virtue of the fact that he is President of the National House of Chiefs, so it's essentially an ex-official member. And then the final position is supposed to be a former Chief Justice. It turns out that we do not have a former Chief Justice now. We have a current Chief Justice. If this current Chief Justice retires, then she's going to take up this position on the Council of State. In a bit, I'm going to be taking you through the regional representatives and how or who has been elected as a regional representative. But here in Accra, we start off in Accra, where I'm going to be telling you how the elections played out. Here in Accra, 37-year-old economist and chief executive of Ideal Finance, Nii Kote Jani, will be representing the Greater Accra region on the Council of State. He emerged winner with traditional ruler Nene Kano Atiapa III being his closest contender in the race. There is more in this report.
At about 10 a.m. on Thursday, all 32 delegates from the 16 assemblies were seated awaiting the start of the election. The commission received a letter from the former Minister of State, E.T. Mensah, conveying his decision to pull out of the polls. EC Director of Communication, Eric Kofi Jakwasu, confirmed the development to Joy News.
We just received a letter. The letter was dated yesterday, but we just received it that he has withdrawn from the contest. We have no choice to accept. If you write before the printing of the ballot papers, your name will not, your pictures will not appear on the ballot.
2 others also pulled out of the race. Traditional ruler Nene Kwesi Agyeman V and Eric Asamani bowed, leaving 13 candidates in the competition. 24-year-old Desmond Decker, who was the youngest among the candidates, together with 26-year-old Alexander Green, were confident of victory.
For me, I was interviewed this morning, and what I said to the public is that this is the time that the youth need to be put on the board to affect so many lives.
We are going to win this election, and I'm telling you that I'm winning, and at 2 o'clock, Desmond Decker will be declared the winner of this election.
The 13 candidates were then allowed the opportunity to address the delegates in a last-ditch attempt to win some votes.
I've taken your ideas, I've listened to you, you have shared ideas, and I'm committed to that. I will not let you down. I'm sociable. My doors are always open.
At the close of polls, Nikote Jani obtained 20 out of the 32 votes to emerge victorious. Nena Atiapa III obtained 12 votes, with the remaining candidates getting none. Addressing the delegates after his victory, the 37-year-old economist promised to be guided by the interest of the region.
This is about somebody who is going to represent Greater Accra region and advise the president and ensure that our region become Greater Accra as our forefathers wanted to be.
Thank you.
I am an entrepreneur by excellence, and I'm going to bring my entrepreneur's case in moving this region forward. I thank all of you for your support.
Some losing candidates who spoke to Joy News were disappointed in the outcome, with some questioning how some failed to get any votes.
So I'm telling you today, democracy has been cheated.
But I believe that there is more to this.
We see that 2 people or 1 person, boom, they give it to him. It's not fine. Are you telling me that I couldn't talk to people, I couldn't campaign? So not a single person knows me. And not a single person knows what I'm going to do for the president if I'm elected. All the programs that I've lined up, not even a single one is good. I'm talking to myself, so nobody, even not a person's voted. So it means that.
Nikote Jani will be joining other representatives from the various regions as well as the president appointees on the council.
Nana Wusu Brimpong Akrofongso Hene will represent the Ashanti region in the Council of State. Following his win, the farmer told the media he was ready to help the president fulfill his campaign promises.
I'm a farmer, entrepreneur. As we speak, I have investors ready to go. They were here in the crowd. 3 investors from the US. They are ready to go. And also in the US, I'm a businessman. I have employed at least 16 Ghanaians working in my factory. And over here, I have a commercial farm which I have invested over $1 million. You know, looking at the campaigning that Nana Addo was doing, he laid emphasis on agriculture. So that's why I contested so hard to win, to help the president.
So are we looking at the one factory, one district being effectively implemented at your place?
As we speak now, I have started the one village, one dam in my farm at my own cost, not at the cost of the government. So I'm very eager to help Nana Addo. Yes, and I told him I'll be the Tinubu Akudua for him.
All right, the race in the Ashanti region was interesting because Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, Mare Hene, was shocked by the turn of events. He placed third in the contest. Babwo Shiamang Bretu has been widely tipped as to win as a representative of the Menchia Palace.
Yeah, I am surprised, but I'm not very surprised, but I'm not. And I hope the better candidate won. This is what Ashantis want to assist them in getting an average government, enforced. So I'm happy for Ashanti for a very peaceful election, and the most, versatile has come out as a winner. It was a massive win, and for that reason, he deserves all recognition.
Now in the Upper West region, the president of the Regional House of Chiefs, Koro Richard Bambini Kantong, has been elected as the region's Council of State Representative. He polled more than half of the 22 votes cast. His closest challenger, 34-year-old Abubakar Muhaisin, who is an accountant, obtained 7 votes.
The Council of State election in the Upper West region was done amid tight security. The candidates who filed to contest the election were each given 2 minutes to speak to the 22 delegates about what they intend to do should they be given the nod. Deputy Upper West Regional Director of the Electoral Commission, Ali Osman Adamu, said the rules before the voting got started.
2 people have withdrawn, and their pictures have been marked, have been cancelled, so please don't vote for them.
The voting process only lasted for only 20 minutes. In the end, President of the Upper West Regional House of Chiefs, Koro Richard Bambini Kantong, won the day by polling 13 of the 22 votes. His closest challenger, 34-year-old Abubakar Sadiq Muhaisin, polled 7 votes, while Bangona Na Jama Matara got 2 votes. Koro Richard Bambini Kantong thanked the delegates and the New Patriotic Party, a specialist regional chair, Alhaji Abubakar Abdurrahman Short, and promised that he will not let them down.
This victory is for the region, it's not for me. I dedicate this victory for the whole region, and I pledge and promise that I will do my best to bring the development that we need to this region. With the help of my senior brother Sanun, we work together and ensure that the challenges we have in this region, and also as the chairman, the president of the region, the House of Chiefs, I promise the region will do our utmost best to bring the development that we need.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wa.
The battle for the sole ticket to represent the Central Region at the Council of State was keenly done. Vice President of the Central Regional House of Chiefs, Obrimpong Apia Nuama II, secured 11 votes to beat off competition from former GFA Administrator Nana Sambru Battler and 4 others. Richard Kodonyako was there and has filed the following report.
We are here at the Central Regional Coordinating Council. The Council of State election just came to an end. 6 people contested. Obrimpong Apia Nuama, and he is an educationist and a traditional ruler. Ketechi Amenfi, and he is a traditional ruler. Nana Sambru Battler, and he is a management scientist and a former GFA administrator. We also had Nenyi Gati, the 7th. He is a traditional ruler as well. And then we have Safohin Frempong, and he is a visually impaired person. And he also stood in this contest. And the final one was Professor Atu Isuman. Remember, Professor Atu Isuman was a Council of State member from 2009 to 2012. Now, at the end of the contest, Obrimpong Apia Nuama, the traditional ruler and the educationist and the vice president of the Central Regional House of Chiefs, polled 11 votes. Dr. Amenfi, the 7th, he polled 4 votes. Samuel Nana Brew Battler polled 7 votes. Nenyi Gati, he is also a traditional leader, also polled 7 votes. Safoin George Frempong, the visually impaired candidate, he had no votes. And then Professor Atu Isuman polled 9 votes.
Obrimpong Apia Nuama, the winner of the Council of State elections in the Central Region, has been sharing his vision with Joy News.
the paramount chief of the Twifu traditional area and vice president of the Central Regional House of Chiefs, says eliminating all forms of child labor, child prostitution, and reducing poverty is his utmost priority.
As times goes on, development doesn't stay at one place. All the time, country needs to be developed. So there are lots of things that needs to be changed. You see, concerning our development in the region, we have a lot of the youth who are not getting employment. We have a lot of the boys and girls who are being trafficked by their parents and other things. So when I come, as I'm going to join them at the top there, I think we are going to find solution to all these problems, child trafficking, child labor, and all those things. I think we will help so that we will reduce. If it is not really eradicated, we can reduce it.
Anasambi Butler, former GFA administrator who secured 7 votes, says the defeat in this election is not the end of the road for him. He wants to make his contribution to the Central Region more pronounced.
Well, Central Region is a winner. We all came with a mission. I offered what I wanted to do. The delegates decided otherwise. It does not take away my love for Central Region. I'll continue to do what I do for my region. I do not have to be in a position to do it. So I wish him the best. But I stand by. He walked to me and said, Nana, I'll be calling upon you. He's always welcome. I was coming in with some innovation, especially coming from the private sector. I know what I could have done from that position. It does not stop me from doing what I want to do. That will be on my own, not with the support of the assemblies.
You're watching Joy News Prime. So that's the way it's turning out as the elected representatives have been, or the regional representatives have been elected, all 10 of them. But still to come in the bulletin, Moroccan King Mohammed VI in Accra for 2-day state visit. We'll have that for you later on in the bulletin. Now, the King of Morocco, Mohammed VI, touched down in Accra a few hours ago to begin a 2-day state visit. The visit is expected to center on deepening bilateral relations and also develop new frontiers of relations. King Mohammed, who ascended the throne in July 1999, was met on arrival at the Kotoka International Airport by Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia. He will meet with President Akufo-Addo on Friday and hold a business meeting with investors. Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo has charged the newly constituted Hajj Board to ensure an incident-free organization of this year's Hajj. The Sheikh Isikwe-led board was ushered into office Thursday with a call on them to ensure challenges that bedevil the organization of the Hajj are addressed.
Were into office members of the Hajj Board. The board performs an important national function, which is to organize the movement of Ghanaian pilgrims to the holy sites in Mecca on an annual basis. There have been several occasions in our history when that organization has not been as well as it should be. I'm anticipating that with the caliber of people that have been assembled on the board this year, under the leadership of a well-known public figure, man who has distinguished himself in the service of our country, that the problems associated with the annual pilgrimages will be things of the past, and that we will see a smooth, seamless movement of people to and from Mecca as a regular occurrence.
The National Chief Imam called on the board to work in unison in the organization of the Hajj.
The main objective is to ensure that we work for the betterment
of our lovely country, Ghana.
Wannan alkawali aka ɗauka a nan wurin.
And that is the promise we made.
Duk inda za a bi a samu kwanciyar hankali a kasan Ghana shine za ku bi.
Whatever you're going to do humanly possible to ensure that we have a very peaceful Hajj, that is what you have to do.
Kiyaye doka na kasa, ku kiyaye doka kuma da kuka yi alkawali za ku cika.
You have to abide by the rules and regulations of the country and also abide by what you have promised to do.
Kun dauki alkawali wurin Allah, kun dauki alkawali wurin Annabi Muhammad, kun alkawali dauki wurin shugaban kasa Nana Akufo-Addo, kun dauki alkawali aikin da za ku yi kan gaskiya ne.
You have promised Almighty Allah. You have promised Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have promised the President of Ghana that you are going to work so hard to ensure that this year's Hajj is going to be free of any challenges.
Za ku taimake shi, za ku taimake mutanen ƙasa baki ɗaya.
You promised to support the President. You promised to support the people of Ghana at large.
Na alkawali yana da ƙarfi, in ka alkawali ya kamata ka cika, ya kamata ku yi kokari ku cika wannan alkawali da kuka dauka daga nan.
The Chief Imam is saying that you have to fulfill the promise you took today. By all means, you have to ensure that you do what you are expected to do.
Now, if you're a victim of the DKM financial scam awaiting the full payment of your lost deposit following the change in government, you'll have to wait a while longer. This is because Brong Ahafo Regional Minister-designate Kweku Asuma Kyereme has disclosed a decision on how to manage the situation would have to be approved by Cabinet. The NPP during the electioneering campaign promised to ensure victims will recover all lost monies if it wins power. Mr. Kyereme told Parliament Appointment Committee a committee will be set up to look into the issue.
First step will be that we set up a committee to go into the matter. And that committee's findings will direct us what we should do. The findings from the committee will lead us to know whether fraud has been perpetrated on the people who deposited their monies, whether fraud had been perpetrated by those who claim to be the owners of such companies.
I'm compelled to come on a follow-up. You are prejudicing your committee already. You've used the word whether fraud. When do you intend to set up the committee on this matter? DKM and God is love. For them, what they want is an assurance that next week or tomorrow you start paying them. Are you able to do that?
Mr. Chairman, that position will have to come from the Cabinet. It is a major issue that affected that part, Brong Ahafo in general. And for that matter, there is a very serious decision that will have to be taken. And that will lead us in forming the committee, and the committee's findings will lead us as to which other step to take.
Are you aware that the Bank of Ghana had, even in December before the election, made substantial payment to affected persons of DKM and God is love? Are you aware?
I am aware, but I do not see that, with all respect, Mr. Chairman, to be substantial payment. How substantial is this?
Is that right? That's an opinion you have offered. Chairman, so can he assure us that you make substantial payments? Is it?
So the findings are made and a proactive decision is made out of that. I cannot give my word in that direction.
Mr. Chairman admitted before the committee he chaired a meeting of the Regional Security Council last week, even before his approval as minister.
Did you chair a RECSEC meeting last week?
Yes, I did.
In what capacity?
In what capacity, Honorable Member?
Yes.
Talk to that before you show us any.
Mr. Honorable Chairman, On the 2nd of February 2017, the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, appointed me as the acting regional minister, and I was given a letter to that effect, which reads, pursuant to the authority vested in me under Article 256(1) of the Constitution and pursuant to Section 14(2) of the Presidential Transition Act 2012, Act 845, I hereby appoint you as my representative to take charge of the affairs of the Bron-Ahafo region pending the approval by Parliament of a minister for the region. 2, I take this opportunity to congratulate you on your appointment. Kindly indicate in writing your acceptance or otherwise of this appointment. Thank you.
Chairman, coincidentally, the nominee is an astute lawyer and legal practitioner. Can you indicate to us any provision of the 1992 Constitution of an acting regional minister?
Does the letter say you're the president's representative or acting regional minister?
Representative.
Chairman himself used the word that he was appointed acting regional minister. Show us in the Constitution where the president, together with you, has any constitutional cloth to appoint an acting regional minister.
Please, I think the position is clear. He misrepresented what he was in the answer.
In another development, former DC for Bembela and Northern Region Minister Designate Salifu Said appeared before the Appointments Committee, assuring he will work to end the recurring violence there in Bembela, where 11 people were killed in a recent clash.
To reassure the House that the Bembela issue is an old issue. It was there before even I was nominated to go there as the district chief executive. Yes, by the time I got there, they were fighting, attacking each other, burning, shooting. But thank God, with at least my diplomacy, when I got in there, I was able to recognize the key stakeholders who are the traditional authorities and leaders and other key players in the district. And I was able to sort of not preside on myself or impose myself on them, but I made them own the processes of trying to see how they can come together and let us run the district like a corporate entity, not your way, not my way, not his way, but synergy. If they all come together and we bring our ideas together, by the end of the day, we can agree on certain ways of doing things and people will not come out to attack each other. Fortunately, we have already established institutions. The chieftaincy institutions are there. Talk about the traditional council, the regional house of chiefs, the national house of chiefs, and then also the courts are there, especially the Supreme Court. If you get to that higher level of the house, national house of chiefs and people are not satisfied, they can go to the court for redress. But you see, we will have to look at the issue whereby we try to let the key stakeholders, the culture, the traditional people own the process of trying to resolve the issue. Sometimes the danger is that if you, the politician, you think that because you are the political head, and the chiefs, the heads of departments, of whatever, they are all, bowing before you, saluting you, and you want to lead the process. That is where sometimes it assumes different dimensions.
Now, no students showed up for classes at the Kumasi Technical Institute today after academic activities resumed following Tuesday's clashes between students and the police. The police had stormed the campus in pursuit of some students they say had pelted them with stones. They then fired tear gas and rubber bullets at the students. This was after the police had tried to restore order on some of the streets in Kumasi, where the students who were jubilating over their performance in an inter-school sports competition blocked some roads, impeding vehicular movement. Today, the students who have been discharged from hospital were reportedly seen at their school with their parents to seek permission to go home to get further treatment. Loud Firm's Erastus Asaredonko has been following the story.
Well, academic activities are supposed to have started today, but the classrooms are empty. And we do have the various lecturers who are fully represented here, and they are here to teach, but almost all the classrooms are empty. Why do you think the classrooms are empty?
Oh, because of what happened. Psychologically, students are not around. And we think a lot of parents came here to take their children. And students are not ready to come to school today.
But lecturers are ready to teach?
I reported 7. Teachers have been reported, but no one is ready. We don't have students to teach them. We can't teach tables. And students are also afraid to come back to campus. And we can't predict the time they are coming to. It's a serious issue.
Any impending exams?
No, currently, no. We don't have exams now. But finalists will be writing the exams on May. So there are no exams now.
So as you can see, we have empty classrooms, and the authorities have declared today as the start of activities. We are expecting that in the coming week, perhaps psychologically, students will be psyched up to come to class and to begin academic activities. Reporting from the Kumasi Technical Institute, Erastus Asaredonko for Joy News.
Watching Joy News Prime, and I'm going to be taking you through the newly constituted Council of State. We have 10 elected representatives. They're going to be representing the various regions. There are 9 men and a businesswoman. Let's go through the various names so we can get to know the people. So for the Central Region, we have Obrimpong Apia Nuama II. And then for Upper East, we have Robert Monsori Duameng. For the Volta region, Albert Francis Nyonyo. And then representing the Ashanti region, Nano Wusu Brempong Akrofoso Hene. And then for the Northern region, we have Dr. Yakubu S. Nantongman. And then Koro Richard Bambini Canton, he's for the Upper West region. And then Nico Tejani, he's representing the Greater Accra region on the Council of State. In the Western region, Eunice Jacqueline Bua, who happens to be the only female representative on the Council of State, as elected on the Council of State. There are other female representatives in the appointed representatives. And then Nana Somwamreku Nyampong, he's representing the Eastern region on the Council of State. And Kwejo Ejenim Boating is representing the Brahafo region on the Council of State. So these are the elected regional representatives. Earlier, we brought you the appointees, those appointed by President Akufo-Addo, and they will, in addition, with elected representatives, make up the newly reconstituted Council of State. The only name that's left will be the former Chief Justice, because as of now, we do not have a former Chief Justice, so that when the current Chief Justice retires, then she could take up that position there. But as we have it, it's just about set. With the presidential appointees, together with elected representatives, we're having a total of about 25, I believe, 25 representatives on the Council of State.
Right here.